All right, folks. Stayed a little longer at the office today. So we'll see what traffic's like. But so it's just after 6 o'clock. So this is a little over an hour than I normally leave. So totally unpredictable with respect to traffic, I guess, but probably gonna be pretty bad, which is fine. No, we have some meetings that we do with our counterparts in China, and we got to find a good time to meet, obviously, right? So when you have stuff that's literally completely opposite time zones, you got to do what you can. So that was today. So I guess I could have probably, jumped in the car and taken the call. But I thought it'd be good because there's folks in the office to be present for that. And I think it was a good decision. It was good to talk through some of the stuff that was brought up. So, yeah, a little later than usual. So felt like a pretty long day as a result. But I definitely experienced this effect when you don't have as many people in the office normally, and then you bring in a whole bunch of people. You might have experienced this yourself if you work mostly remote and you go into the office periodically, but kind of like all of the water cooler talk, so to speak, that never happens because everyone is remote. Suddenly when you bring a bunch of people in, it's like that happens nonstop. So it's good. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy to be able to have conversations with people that in like a casual kind of way, like it's not necessarily like a structured meeting. So it's good. But at the same time, like it takes up a lot of time. It's just part of it. So not the end of the world. And last year when I experienced the same type of thing, and I kind of talked about this the other day, right? But when I experienced this before, I just had to remind myself, like, it's okay. Because it feels like, oh no, like my day is totally screwed. Like, I'm rushing between meetings or basically having to cancel some meetings because conversations are going over. And the reality is, like, a lot of the times, the conversations that are happening on the spot, you're not getting this type of opportunity regularly. So I think it's important to like lean into it. I got some guy in an Acura that's like tailgating me between the lights. Like he's trying to accelerate at the exact same time as me so that he keeps the same, 2 feet of distance. Like an idiot. He's passing me now. Good, get out of here. So silly when people do that. Sometimes I know my wife has noticed this. I drive, well, my other car is currently black, my TT, but it was like a purple color before, and it has a really big wing on it. So, and it's loud. So all of the time I would have people pulling up beside me and like, revving their engine and stuff. I once had, back home, I had a van full of university kids. Like it was like overflowing with dudes, and they pulled up beside me as we were driving, like on a street, not the highway or anything, and they're like revving the van's engine, and it's like some old beater, like Dodge Caravan, like overflowing with kids, and I'm like, man, this is crazy. And you're like revving at me. Yeah, bizarre, but sometimes like either driving a loud car or this car, I guess, got some people looking. So you always seem to have people that are like, oh, like we must race, I guess. I don't know. People are ridiculous, but anyway, that guy's gone. So today was like, it was pretty much a whirlwind. Really good conversation, so I'm happy about that. What did we do? We went to so on Microsoft campus, there's a handful of buildings that have like a cafeteria or a cafe, right? So I'm at the headquarters, so like the Redmond campus, and by our building, there's the next building over is a cafeteria, so they got different stands for lunch and stuff. But there's a couple of other buildings that are newly renovated, and they're a little bit of a walk away, so like a 10-minute walk or so, and they have way different like food selection. So sometimes we make a trek out there. So today we took the PM that I work closely with. A couple of us went for lunch with him today. So we made the trek. And it's funny, like as soon as I walked in, I saw Chinese food, and I'm like, oh man, I'm not even looking at anything else. I want Chinese food. So did that. Don't regret that at all. That was awesome. And then one of our guys wanted to get coffee on the way out, so they got this coffee spot. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I don't know anything about it, but there's this coffee spot. There's also like a bakery right beside it. So I, of course, can't resist cookies, and they had like crumble cookie size cookies. And if you're not familiar with crumble cookie, it's like this cookie store that makes these gigantic cookies, and all of the cookies seem like they're almost like half baked, like they're super big, super soft, and they rotate through different flavors every week. So they'll have like a handful of different flavors that they switch through. So when they announce the flavors, it's like, hey, it's only limited time before you're going to see this thing again. So it kind of makes you like, oh crap, I guess I better get in and get one of these cookies. But if you haven't seen them before, you'd have to see them. They're huge. I think each cookie is like 800 calories or something ridiculous. So this bakery had a bunch of stuff, but they had some cookies that looked like crumble cookie style, like huge, a lot of frosting on them. You shouldn't be eating it, but I saw it and I'm like, there's no way I'm not getting that. So I had a crumble cookie, which is, well, the equivalent to a crumble cookie. So I had like a red velvet kind of thing. So good. So we did that for lunch. But today, yeah, it was a lot of meetings. We had a meeting with a partner team, kind of like with two partners. So it's kind of like an interesting challenge where we're working on projects cross team and like trying to get everyone on the same page. Like this is, in my opinion, like the most challenging type of thing to work on in software engineering from my own experience. Like literally you take technical challenges and you like put a team on it. Like we're gonna figure it out, right? Like software engineers are great at solving problems. I always say this, but we're not good at working cross team. It's just what happens time and time again. It's really challenging. So making sure that you can have teams understand the requirements and challenges of other teams. Oh man, this lane is awful. You can see everyone passing me, right? This is the spot. This is a weird part of the highway to explain. I'm going to try my best. If I stay in this lane, okay, so if I don't move at all, two exits from now, there is two exits from now is an exit, and the people in this lane from where I am are, it's like, it's probably 200 cars away. We're lined up this far to get off the highway. Now, my exit is actually before this one, but I have to move over one lane to my right. I know this is kind of weird to explain, but the lane I need to move over in is also an on-ramp. So I'm sitting here in traffic. I have a lane that's about to show up on my right where all these people are trying to merge over to the left, and I need to get over to the right. So I'm literally sitting in this lineup of cars for no reason. And if I stay here, it's for no reason. I need to get over to this right lane. I also have a guy on a motorcycle right behind me. And no offense against motorcycle drivers, but I feel like people on motorcycles don't realize that while I understand you have a lot of visibility on your motorcycle, I don't want your motorcycle attached to the trunk of my car. This person's honking to get in, but they didn't have their signal on. Now it's on. Come on in, buddy. Okay, I gotta think for a second because I gotta get over. There we go. Problem solved. Okay, now I'm in my other stupid lane, and just as I predicted, I'm gonna be getting home at 7 o'clock, according to this. So I really hope my fast lane opens up. This is why I started this little vlog thing, because you got to hang out with me on my stupid drive home. I can't stand sitting in traffic. I can't stand it. It's like arguably like the most unproductive thing you could possibly do. I don't mean like the most like has the most negative consequences. I just mean like literally it's a complete waste of time. It's so dumb. So dumb. I think like I'm happy to make exceptions during this week when we have people traveling in, because I think it's important to be able to capitalize on that, because it's not common. But man, do I hate this. It's no good. So yeah, we're working today. We had one of these meetings where we're working cross-functionally across these different teams, different orgs as well. So that's the other thing. Like, so kind of picture this, right? If you have a team, you have people working together in a team, you can generally understand your team's requirements pretty easily, or at least more easily than if you start having multiple teams. So now you have to understand more than one team, so 2, 3, 4 teams. You have to understand those circumstances, those scenarios, and try to move forward together, right? If those teams are at least in the same organization and facing similar sets of challenges, you can at least start to align around that, where you're like, okay, I get that we're not the same team, but at least we all kind of see these common challenges, these common ways forward. We're going to disagree on some things here and there. That's cool. But like, you got something common, right? The further away that these teams are across orgs, whatever it happens to be, like the less close relationship you have just from like proximity of the areas that you work in, this problem of getting on the same page just gets completely ridiculous. It's nuts. And it's no one's fault. Like, I genuinely like the people that I'm collaborating with. Obviously, very smart people. They know their areas very well. But it's like, it just feels slow. That's like the best way I can explain it is like, we all want to be making progress and making sure that we can start like, solving the problems. We can start contributing to the features and building things out. But it seems so slow. And the reason it seems slow is because in our own heads, we already understand what we want. We've all talked about it within our teams. We know what we want to build. We know like if we have these plans in our mind, like that's going to solve our problems. Like, we're all like, let us go build the things. Like, let us go do it. But the challenge is that we need to build it together. So now we have to come up with solutions that we're solving problems for all of us. So it just makes it incredibly difficult when you have to try and factor in the priorities of other teams. And I thought this is important to kind of chat through, because if you haven't experienced this, like, it's not easy. It's like I said, I think it's one of the hardest things in software engineering is scenarios like this. And the reason I say this, right, is like, let's say, for example, I was saying in this particular case, our individual teams might all feel like we know the technical solution for our problems. Like, we feel like we could come up with a path forward and just start executing on it. So if we just forgot the other teams existed, we could be making progress. Like, we could be building these things. And they could make the same argument, right? If our team wasn't present, they're like, yeah, we could be going and getting all this stuff done. But when you add in these other requirements, you have to get everyone bought in, you have to get everyone aligned. It makes it challenging. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want you to misinterpret that I'm complaining that the thing that we're going to build in the end is not good. I think it will be better than anything we could build on our own. So that's my point, is not to say, oh, it's a waste of time, it's not going to be a good thing. In fact, I think it's going to be amazing. I think we are coming up with a solution that's going to work for all of us. It's just that process is difficult. It's so difficult. If we think about an ideal world, right? Like, we have our own beliefs about the things we want to go build, the challenges that we're going to face, the solutions that we want to have. Like, what are we trying to solve for? All of our different teams have that. And in an ideal world, we're able to say, look, everyone is going to have their needs met. Everyone's things are going to be prioritized as like P0. They're going to get done right away. Like, that's what we all want. I don't think anyone's out there to say, like, no, screw you, other team. Like, we don't care about you. Like, only us at all costs. Like, no one's like that. So ideally, we would all get everything we need with priority. But it's just not reality. So then it starts to be like, okay, how do we compromise? Well, okay, like, if we have this end goal where that's good for all of us, okay, well, in the short term, what's good for us, right? We want our stuff first, at least. I think we all, like, naturally, we kind of want to go that way, but we all have to kind of look at what's being done and just make informed decisions that are going to benefit everyone, really. So it's just not easy. I think this kind of thing is like, man, this guy's a... Look at this guy coming up beside me. Like, who do you think you are? Dummies. Anyway, people don't know how to zipper merge. He's like trying to get ahead by moving over lanes, but if you just wait your turn, we all get to go. I think this is the kind of project, though, where, like, it takes a long time. It's difficult to navigate, but, like, once we hit our stride and once it's done, like, in like a steady state, I think this is the kind of thing that feels so rewarding. Because truly, the solutions you come up with, you're like, hell yeah, like, we did that together, and, like, you acknowledge that it wasn't easy. So that's cool. So this is the fun part of the highway, where I merge over all of the lanes to the fast lane, and I have like 10 feet to do it, so wish me luck. One lane down. Okay, how do we get over? 2 lanes down. Almost there. 3 lanes. And now somehow have to get up to speed. We did it! Yay. I hate this. It's weird, too. There's a couple parts of this highway or highways that we have around here. The left lane is a fast lane. I've seen some other spots where they have the express lane or like a carpool lane on the far right lane. And that makes it really weird because you're trying to merge onto the highway, but like it's also the fast lane. And then you're in the fast lane, and then you have to like let people like slowly merging on get in front of you. It's super dumb. And then here, given that you only have a short distance to be able to merge, like to get into the fast lane before it's like closed off. I mean, you can literally drive over it. You can't see it, but it's like two double solid lines. It's illegal to cross it, but like nothing's stopping you. So the distance that you have to get into this spot is so short that it's like you kind of have to drive like a bit of a jerk to get over. But anyway, that's that. Now we're here, and now it's only 30 minutes to get home. But we'll see. Hopefully this time drops. Remember, it was going to take 52 or 55 minutes or something. 7 o'clock was the target. It's 6:56 now is the target. So we'll see. Something else that was super cool today, and we'll see. I was talking with my PM, and then someone walked up and caught me off guard, and I was like, "Oh, like who the heck is this person? Like, why are they familiar?" And then I realized who it was. I'm not gonna say anyone's names just because it doesn't matter. But so a different PM from a different team came up, and was saying, "Hey, we're just catching up briefly." So this is like this is just like a really cool thing to hear for myself. But he was saying, he said hi and then was introducing himself to my PM. I'm assuming they know each other because they were talking like they know each other. Maybe not, but he was saying like, yeah, I worked with Nick on this project, and he said like, I don't know exactly how he framed it, but it was along the lines of like if it weren't for Nick, we would have been stuck. Like Nick really stood up for our team, made sure that things were progressing, and it was cool because like he didn't have to say that. Obviously, like I didn't ask him to say that or anything, so it felt good to hear someone else kind of recognize that I was trying to do this type of work. And I'll talk about this briefly because this is another kind of the theme of, I guess, this conversation will be like, cross-functional projects. And this is just another example of a bunch of teams working on a common goal. And when I spent a lot of time at startups, right? So I had like 8 years at a company before Microsoft that my ultimate goal was just like, I don't know if I can swear on YouTube, but I think I can say shit. I think shit is okay to say. But for me, it's like a get shit done mentality, like a bias for action. Let's keep going. And this all comes from the fact that when we were a small startup, you don't have the luxury of not having a bias for action. You can't sit around forever and just like hope. Kind of like this person in the fast lane who's not driving fast. There's literally no one in front of you, buddy. Okay, get that out of the way. So yeah, I just realized, I don't know, I probably seem like a total asshole when I'm driving like this, but this guy is driving like under the speed limit in the fast lane. So yeah, so being at a startup, it's like always a bias for action because you don't have the luxury of just like, you can't wait for perfection, right? You have to get stuff shipped. You have to get it in front of users. You obviously don't want it to be broken and busted, but like you have to keep moving. So you do this, and anytime you're hitting these roadblocks where it's like, oh, we can't do anything, it's like that's just not an option. It's not an option to say, oh, like we have to wait for forever to get an answer, or we can't reach a consensus. It's like, guess what? You can't reach a consensus doesn't mean you're not taking an action. Something's got to happen. So this was always the mindset, right? Hey, like our team doesn't own this. It's like, yeah, that's too bad. Like you wear all the hats when you're at a startup. And I could tell by the time that I left working in a startup, especially newer people coming into the company as it was growing, like I was like employee number 8. It was like over 250 people when I left. So you start to have people that don't understand what it's like to be at a tiny startup. So I could see this kind of thing happening all the time where, hey, like, not really our responsibility, like that's another team's kind of thing. And like, it just doesn't work with me. like I think it's just an excuse. Like that's just not okay. And don't get me wrong, I think you need to balance your team's priorities, but at the end of the day, there needs to be a bias for action. So sometimes it's going to mean like, yeah, our team is doing stuff that like we don't own it, but it's ultimately moving the needle in the right direction for the company. And I think that that's important. When managers or teams are like, no, we can't, we don't own it, we want nothing to do with it, like that's, hot potato, pass it to the next person, and then they do the same thing, like not a good spot to be. The flip side, of course, if you're listening to this and you disagree with that logic, I get that you don't just want to be a pushover and say, okay, we'll do anything that people give us. You have to prioritize things, don't get me wrong, but I think constantly putting your hands up and saying, like, not us, like, too bad, it's a problem. So in this team situation that I want to kind of talk through is like, there's a lot of that going on. And I think part of the challenge was like, every team had a piece of the puzzle to own. Okay, so every team's got some responsibility, and this is already like an additional load on the teams. So it's kind of like a virtual team, if I can call it that, right? So all of these teams have a couple of representatives that are contributing to this big project, and trying to make any progress on it at all was already like extra overhead. Like we're already being stretched too thin to go work on this. Now you layer on, especially because there's a lot of platform teams, you layer on a team going, well, like we need this team, like we need your team to help, and you guys got to do this. And I totally get why every team is like, no, not our problem. It's like, we don't even want to be here in the first place. And I don't mean that to suggest that people didn't believe in the project. I mean that people felt like they had too much stuff to do. Right? Like there's a lot of things going on, and it's easy to have this feeling of like, oh, you're like, you need help with this project, like so do we, like go figure it out. Basically, we're too busy figuring out our own stuff. So I get why people are like that. So for me, I was just so sick of going to meetings and feeling like I was sitting around for an hour and then having this conversation with people where it's like, yeah, like I think we get it, but like, not our problem. And or yeah, we think we get it, but like it's just we're not going to get to that. It's not a priority. And just like not having like a unified view of what the goal needs to be for all of us to make progress, because each team is so focused on their own deliverables, right? Like that's that's the challenge. And so in this particular case, like I said, I was kind of getting sick of it, so I had to basically put my hand up for my team and say, look, like this other team, from without getting into the details of everything, I'm like, based on my understanding of what's going on here, like this is a partner team we have. We are absolutely going to like stand up for what they need, and selfishly, the things that we are trying to do and deliver on, we can use them as like guinea pigs, so to speak, because they want our support. They want us to go build the things. They're eager to be the first ones to use it. Like this is going to be selfishly a good relationship for us as well. So we can literally help them, and they will be helping us in return. The other thing that we can do is now we have, it's not just our opinion when we're going to other partners and asking for help. We don't just say, hey, can you guys do this for us because like we want it? No, we say, we need you guys to do this because it's blocking us from being able to deliver for another partner. So instead of it just being like, we want this thing from you, it's like, we need this, and we will need to escalate it because we can't deliver on our promises. So we can start to illustrate more of like call it like a chain reaction, or like a, like a dependency graph of like what's got to happen. So it just makes negotiating a little bit more tangible, where people would say like, hey, like we have priorities too, and like we think this is more important. Because now I can say, look, like if we don't get this stuff done, that's also going to block this other team, and here's how important their stuff is. Now you got two teams who, if you just help unblock something, you have two teams that can make progress. So that's kind of how I was approaching things, and really just trying to make people like stop making the excuses of like corporate hot potato, right? Like, not for us to worry about. Go find someone else to help. Hated that. I say hated that. Like I still hate it, but I say past tense in this case, because I truly think that we made a lot of progress on that, and developed a really good partnership that way. So in this case, for me, it was just a really feel-good moment to have someone kind of like, they recognize that as part of our working relationship. So that was cool. So he did say he was going to subscribe to my YouTube channel. So I think he's subscribed to the main one. I have no idea if he'll ever watch this one. He might not even know this channel exists. But I wanted to, I just wanted to kind of say out loud, like I appreciated hearing that, because it's not the kind of thing like I need my manager to give me a pat on the back and say, good job for helping navigate conversations like that. That's just part of my job. I got to do that. But I think it was just, for me, it felt good because that is part of my role. I have to get it done. But I don't know if people see it happening, if that makes sense. So it's kind of cool that someone acknowledges, like, thank you for stepping up to do that, because I saw it as a problem and I saw what you did as a positive step in the right direction. So that was cool. But yeah, I think so. We were talking about content creation because he was laughing. He's like, oh, I see your stuff on LinkedIn. I was like, sorry if it feels spammy to you, because I get that, like, I post a lot. But he said, no, like, tell me your YouTube channel. So I told him, and then we had this funny moment, because he was saying, like, from content creation, he was like, hey, did you see this guy who posted this thing on Twitter or LinkedIn? And I as soon as he said it, I knew exactly who he was talking about. He didn't say anything besides that before I knew who he was talking about. And he then went in to go explain what the post was about. And it starts off by saying something along the lines of, I used to work for a CEO who seduced my wife. And I was like, dude. I said, I know who it is. I said, in fact, I know today. So today's Tuesday. I was kind of thinking, I'm like, today's Tuesday. I said, Thursday. I said, you just subscribed to my YouTube channel. So Thursday is the day where you'll see I actually interviewed him, and I had scheduled the interview with him well before that happened, like 2 weeks before. And so his name's Ethan Evans, and like I didn't bring it up in the interview, because I think he really got, as you might expect, he got a lot of people like saying really mean stuff to him and things like that. But as a content creator, like, people got to realize that first line, that's your opportunity to catch people's attention. And oh boy, did he catch people's attention. So I didn't want to I didn't want to start the interview and be like, so, like, tell us all about that. Because I feel like that was probably, he was probably done talking about that. But I thought it was really funny. So anyway, that interview, I really enjoyed that interview. Ethan was awesome to talk to. It was really cool to hear his journey. He went into a bunch of but cool conversations about like stuff that he's done in his career. And sorry, just trying to turn right here and I had to watch a couple directions. But yeah, like, you kind of get to hear high level from him about how he worked at some startups and how he went through and started working at Amazon, and kind of just I don't want to say it was all luck. Like, that's terrible to say, because obviously he had to work for what he was doing, but kind of like had some fortunate situations that he was able to capitalize on, and it's awesome. So super cool, like, career journey. I thought so. And yeah, I just really enjoyed the conversation. So that the goal that we set out for in that interview, because I always like having a couple topics that I want people to like be able to focus on. Like, I want to know what you're all about when you come on and speak to me on my podcast, because I want to focus on that stuff with you. I don't want to like grill you with questions and it's really weird. I want you to be able to talk about the stuff that you're excited about, right? So he was saying we should talk about, like, from the perspective of executives and senior leadership, like what are we looking for in software engineers, especially like more senior software engineers. So we got into some of that, which is super cool. I don't think you'll hear anything that's like super surprising there. Like, I think the things that he was focused on, at least from my perspective, that was like, that all makes sense. Like, I align with that. It wasn't like some super secret thing. Like, all the executives and senior leadership have secret things they look for to in engineers. Maybe I shouldn't be telling you that. Maybe I should tell you it's full of secrets. You should go watch that podcast on my other channel. No, I don't lie. So no, it's a good conversation though. Like I said, I really enjoyed talking with him, and I do recommend you check it out. So on that note, I had like a huge backlog of these podcasts to get published, and just felt terrible that like I was falling behind. So I think some people might have had to wait like a month to get their podcast up. And usually I was doing it for the next week, but I had so many podcasts that I hadn't edited, and had to send them all over to my editor. And we kind of had, we talked about it. We had a bit of an agreement that like, they don't need to be heavily edited. Like, slap the intro on. It's like, it's stuff I can do. But I just said, like, I don't want to have to worry about it. It's just more work for me to do. And he does an awesome job, and his rates I'm very happy with. So I kind of delegated that work to him. It's just light green. There's a big van in front of me I can't see, so it seems like he's waiting. So yeah, I think I've already talked about the other day. I talked about the interview I did with Rita, who was an actress and organized a theater for like 8 years. Like, I think I really liked that conversation. That was super cool. I got a couple more lined up, but now I'm kind of getting to the point again where I got to start scheduling more of them. So I'll be doing that. I got to reach back out to David Fowler. So some people might not know like the different .NET and like sort of Microsoft celebrity people, but like I interviewed Scott Hanselman. Really loved that conversation. But I had also had David Fowler agree to do a chat, and I remember when I was talking with Scott, because he was apologizing about the scheduling and stuff, because he's a super busy guy. So he was like, hey, sorry. He's like, I actually am usually very prompt with getting these things scheduled, and there was a couple of things that were going on. So he was like, I do apologize, because that's actually not normal for me. And I said, no worries. And I was mentioning like I wanted to coordinate with David Fowler, who also agreed. And he was like, oh, like, by the way, like, here's probably why, if he seemed a little bit MIA, like, pretty good reason. So I think probably time I reach back out to David and see if he's cool to do a chat. So if I'm not mistaken, David Fowler basically is the author of NuGet. So if you're a .NET developer, you probably know what NuGet is for all of your package management. And I think he's also the creator of SignalR, which is pretty cool. And he is also, when I say the author, by the way, I don't know, like, other people that were involved. I don't mean to say that there was no one else. It's not fair. But I think the same thing for Aspire. So .NET Aspire, David Fowler is the sort of the creator of that, or at least the person who's leading it. So all like super ridiculously impressive things in the C# and .NET ecosystem. But that will bring us to parking at home. So I'm gonna back up. The wife is home. She's probably like, where the hell were you? Because I'm usually home by now, so I don't blame her for that. It's a very late one for me. But that's that. Thanks, folks. I will see you next time. Take care.